Dear students, here is a project for you, and that project you are supposed to complete on the provided data. You will have 4 data sets, but one student will be working on only one data set, not all. So here is a brief detail about the data. So we have data set G1, G2, G3 and G4. So 4 data sets we have, and every students will be working on different data sets according to the defined formula. I'll explain how you will select your appropriate group for the analysis. So this project is about data which has been already collected from a source, and here the detail of the variables. You will see the name construct. What is the construct? Construct is the name of variable. So actually sometimes we are unable to determine a variable by a single variable, and to determine that variable we ask several questions from the respondent, and all these questions are jointly representing a variable, and all these jointly represented items or the questions are related to a construct which is called a variable or a construct. So here you can see the library. Library means there is a variable whose name is library, means this is a construct, and that construct contains 7 items. 7 items mean it contains 7 different questions that you are going to ask from the respondent, and collectively when we combine all these 7 items, they would be representing a variable whose name is library. And similarly for the computer lab we have 8 items, and in the group 1 data or the data set G1 there would be 2 variables only, that is the library and the computer lab. And for the G2 we have 3 variables. One is labs, it contains 4 items, transport it contains 3 items, and medical 2 items are lying in this variable. And similarly for the G3 we have hostel, classrooms, sports, and similarly you can see all the number of items lying within each variable. And for the last group, which is G4, we have labs, transport and hostel, and the number of questions which are lying in each construct you can see in front of each variable within the brackets. So for this data analysis we have 3 demographic variables. The first demographic variable is the department, and the second demographic variable is the university, and the third demographic variable is the gender. And there would be certain categories lying within each demographic variable. For example, there would be certain departments within D1, and the data would be collected from the universities. So obviously the names of the universities would be appearing under the D2, and the gender are male and the female. And now for the data, what you are supposed to do, what are your objectives to analyze the data in the SPSS. The first objective is the frequency table. So you will be constructing the frequency table for each of the items for the data on which you are working, and the frequency table will contain the actual count of the observation and the percentage frequency of the observations. And now how you will be calculating the frequency counts? You will cross each of the item by the used demographic variables, so that we can have the number of counts lying within the each category of the demographic variables. So I would explain briefly. For example, if you consider the demographic gender, if you cross the item by the gender, so you will be having the counts of the frequency for the males and for the females separately. So in this way you will have a breakup of the variable with respect to the used demographic. So one by one we'll be using the demographic. First we'll use department, then we'll be using university, and then third will be the gender. And now as I move to the SPSS data sheet, then I brief you how you can have this sort of frequency table. So I have opened one of the data set which is G1 data. So you can see here that is your G1 data set. So here you can see the 3 demographic variables, and then we have several items: library 1, library 2, library 3. So here we have 7 items for the library, and CL1, CL2 and computer labs. So all these items are related to the computer labs. These are 8 items. So you have mainly 2 broadly variables. One is library and the other is computer labs, with 3 demographic variables. So you can see here if you click this variable view, this is the demographic 1, D2, D3, and library 1, library 2. So these are item names. So you can say the library 1 is the first item, library 2 is the second item. And since all these 7 questions or the items are related to one main variable, which is a library, and what these questions are related to the each items, mean the library 1 is the availability of the textbooks, and the student would be, or the respondent would be signing according to the uh, legends of this question. For example, you can see here all these points over which the respondent had to sign in. So accordingly, you will have all these the points according to these questions. So once we need to have a frequency tables, first we need to use a command, that is a split file. So first we will split the data with respect to the D1. So here we go with the data and then split file. So use here the compare means radio button and then D1 here, and clicking OK, so that you can have the execution of this command. And now moving to the frequency, so here analyze and then descriptive and then frequency. So in the frequency we'll be selecting all these items which are lying in the data. So as you see, I have selected all the items, and on the back end we have a split file department 1. And now what you need here, we need a frequency table. You just select all these items and clicking the OK button, you see in the output. So here we go with the all details. So the detail in the table is lying in the departments, 3 departments data is lying in the data set. There is the social sciences department, natural science, and IT. And from each of these departments 50 questionnaires has been collected, you can see here. And since nothing information is missing, so you see here 0. And now what is the breakup? The breakup you can see here in the social sciences, and these are the items you see here. Availability of the textbook, it was a library 1 question. So here there is a frequency and a percentage frequency. So for the presentation in your project, you will just copy these 2 columns, and don't need to copy these next 2 columns. So that is just to ease yourself, so that you can have lesser work. So I have just given you an option to select only 2 columns, the frequency and the percentage frequency. So similarly, you can have the details of all the items I have selected here, so you can see the breakup. And similarly, you will be choosing one by one the other demographics to have such type of the frequency tables. And you will be constructing a joint table where all the items would be appearing, and there will be one table that would be showing you the percentage and the frequency percentage related to the demographic 1, and there will be second table for the demographic 2, and the third table would be for the demographic D3. And now since we have done with the frequency, so we should split off. So for the split off, you should go back to the split file and then select here analyze all the cases, do not create groups, and clicking the OK button. So you will have off the split execution. So you can see here in the output file, the split file is off here. And now we see what is the next object. The next objective is to apply the chi-square test. And now the chi-square test, you know very well how to apply the chi-square, but let me brief you. The chi-square test would be considering the 2 variables. One is the demographic, and then item number 1 demographic 1, item number 2 demographic 1, item number 3, and similarly you will move one by one, and you will have different chi-square values. And just I show you to perform the chi-square analysis. So first of all, you just go to the analyze part, and then descriptive analysis, and then cross tabs. So here I am selecting across the row the first demographic, and the first item here is this one. And now statistics, you need a chi-square statistics. So just select the chi-square, then continue with pressing the OK button. So you will have the chi-square test. So you see here is the insignificance. And now moving back to the chi-square, here you will back, and the next item would be selected. And now pressing the again, and I see again, you can see here insignificance. Insignificance means this item is not dependent on the different departments. So that's how by one you will be calculating the chi-squares of all these items. And for example, going back to the data sheet, if you consider the library 1 to the library 7, if you cross one by one all these 7 variables with the D1, you will have 7 chi-square values. And then similarly, applying the chi-square to the library 1 to library 7 questions with respect to D2, another 7 chi-squares would be obtained, and similarly for the D3 another 7. So for the library only you will have 7 into 3 means 21 chi-square values you will have. And once you apply it to the CL, so CL means how many items are lying in the CL, say the 8 items. So if you cross the CL1 to CL8 with the demographic 1, so you will have 8 chi-square values, and with respect to D2 you will have another 8 chi-square values, and with D3 you will have another set of 8 chi-square values. So in this way 8 into 3, 24 chi-square values, and the 24 tables you will get. And now as we completed with the chi-square, you will interpret what the findings are. For example, if you have 7 items, and in how many cases the chi-square found significant, and in how many cases the chi-square was non-significant with respect to each of your demographic variables. So in this way you will be interpreting your results. And now the last objective is to calculate the ANOVA. So before moving to the ANOVA, we have to construct the scores. So I'll let you know how to calculate the scores for the each of the variable. To compute the score, we have to go to the option, and that is transform. So the transform and then compute variables. So here we'll be naming the variable that we want to have for our construct. So as we are discussing the library, so I just naming the library as a variable. And now coming to this window sections, so as you click here your cursor would be blinking here, and now from this place you will be selecting the sort of the function that you want to apply. So we'll select here the statistical, and as you click the statistics, different measures would be appearing as a function. So as we need a mean here, you just click on the mean. As you click the mean would be appearing here. So here we have brackets. So I am removing all these question marks, and now one by one, so you will be selecting all the items which are related to the library. For example, this is the library first item, so clicking here and then pressing the comma, then selecting the next one, again comma, then next one, comma, next one, comma, and the next item, comma, next item, comma, and the next item. So you have to move this step until you get all these items selected within these two brackets. So as you see, the library variables was library 1 to library 7, so I have selected all these 7 items, and make sure that in between two items there would be a comma operator. If there is no comma operator, this command will be giving you an error, so it will not be executed by the SPSS. So as you see, I have selected all the items and ensure that all the requirements are completed, and these requirements are within the brackets there should be comma separating two items. So now just press the OK button, and while you press the OK button, in the output window you can see here the command has been executed, and going back to the data sheet you will find another variable has been calculated. The name is a library, the same name that I gave to the variable. So that's how you will be calculating the scores. So I have calculated the score for the library. So similarly, adopting the same methodology, you will be calculating the scores for the CL, is a computer lab, and if you have another construct with you, so similarly you will apply all these methods to the third variable, and similarly the fourth variable. So in this projects, if you go through all the data sets, so the group number 4 will be discussing on the 3 variables, and group 2 will be on 3 variables. Group 2 will be 3 variables and group 1 on the 2 variables only. So why the group 1 is for the 2 variables? Because the items are more in the variables. So you see here 7 items under the library and 8 for the labs. So that's why I have given the 2 variables only to the G1, whereas 3 variables to the other. So if you count the total number of items here to analyze, here 15 items are here in the first group, and now 3 plus 4 plus 2. So only 9 items for the group 3 and 11 items for the group number 3, and for the group number 4 we have 4 plus 3 plus 3, so 10 items. So similarly, to some extent I have justified that the level of work produced by the each student is almost same. And now moving to the analysis of variance. So going back to the data sheets, so we have to analyze this library for the analysis of variance, and you know very well how to apply the analysis of variance. So analysis of variance you will apply by crossing this library with respect to D1, D2 and D3. So one by one we'll be applying 3 ANOVAs, such as analyze and then compare mean and then one-way ANOVA. So in the one-way ANOVA you will just select this library here and your first demographic variable here, and in the options you will be selecting only homogeneity of variance and the descriptive if you wish to include here. Continue and then pressing the OK button, so you will have the chi-square values. You see here the chi-square is significant, and that is indicating that the scores for each of the departments related to the library is significant. I mean, not all the departments are saying that the library facility are equal for all these 3 departments. So from the mean score you can have an idea. For example, the social sciences score is 3.46. I mean, the scores from social sciences department is higher as compared to the natural sciences or the IT. I mean, the social sciences people, these are not usually or can be any reason behind it why the score is more in average, but your ANOVA test is significant here. So similarly, now for the second demographic you will going back to the same path, where instead of the department number 1 you will be replacing it by the university and then pressing the OK button. And now what is the ANOVA output? So you see again it's a significant, means there are 3 universities are here from which the data are collected, that is the Education University and UVAS and then the Leeds University. So in these 3 universities the scores are related to the library, these are significantly different. So you see here from the Education University the score is 3.26, whereas is least in the University of Veterinary Science. I mean, the library facilities in the UVAS are not that effective as per the average calculated. So in this way you will be applying another ANOVA for the demographic number 3, and then you will calculate the scores for our next construct, which is computer labs. And for the computer lab score you will be applying the ANOVA, and we'll have 3 analysis of variances here. One is for the demographic 1 and 2 for the demographic 2, and the third one for the demographic 3. So in this way you will achieve all these objectives which are written or mentioned over here in your projects. So you will copy all these related outputs which are related to the frequency tables, chi-square test and ANOVA tests, and you will interpret it accordingly what you have achieved in. So that's how you will complete it, and you will submit a document as a Word document where all these step-by-step methodologies would be used, and as you perform or do the better work, the better the marks you will be going to have. So try to do individual work and don't try to copy the other works. So that is something about the project. So I'll be sending the all related information to you through the Moodles. So in case you have any problem, you are stuck at any point, you just send a message. So I'll be taking you to the Google Meet, and then we'll be clearing all the issues that you may have for this.